Today, we're going to take a look at how to make this rustic wine holder. This is a great gift idea for someone in your life that you know that loves wine, and it's an easy step-by-step guide on how to build this project. So if you're ready, let's get started. So the first thing we do is use our clamps to secure the wood down. And then once we've got the wood tight, we're going to go ahead and use our pencil and our tape measure to get the measurements we need. And then just use that speed square to strike the line. And then we're also going to use our speed square to use as a guide for our circular saw. We're going to be making multiple cuts throughout this portion of the project. So we're going to be loosening and tightening the clamps and using our tape measure to get multiple measurements. We're also going to be using that speed square multiple times to strike the line and then use it to guide the circular saw for our cuts. So what you'll notice is we're making multiple cuts because we have to make the side walls, we have to make the base of the project, everything else. And so whenever we can, we use that wood that we cut previously as a template so we can make sure that we have the same measurements. That makes it easy to make sure that we have accurate height, accurate length, everything on the wood that we're using for the project. And then we're going to use that template again once we get the wood secured, and then use that template of wood as a guide so we can make sure that we have the accurate lengths that we need. And then last thing we do, use that speed square and the circular saw. Alright, so now we're going to use our drill and our metal brush wheel. And we're going to do this to make the rustic look on the wood. We use that ventilator because you're going to see how much sawdust actually comes off once we're doing this portion of the project. And some of my other videos have shown how we actually make that rustic look on the wood. So you can go ahead and check out some of our other videos. Or you can check out Matthew Peach Woodworking or a few other channels here on YouTube. But what you'll see is that metal brush wheel is taking out some of the meat between the grain on the wood. And so once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and make markings so we can do a dry fit of the base of the project. So this is the base piece, and what we did was we went just over 3.5 inches, it looks like. And we did that to make sure that we have the lines to show where the center pieces of the wood are going to go. That would be on the outsides of the wine bottle. So once we use the speed square, we strike our line with our pencil. And each of those pieces of wood is 3/4 of an inch, so we're just going to check and make sure that when we line up the wood with those lines, we'll have enough space between the wood for that wine bottle and then for the glasses. So now what we're doing is using that 3/4 inch wood on the outside to show what the sidewall is going to look like. And you see that on the left side and on the right side, that wine glass does fit between the portions, so we have a good measurement there. And now we're just double checking the dry fit for the wine bottle as well. And it looks like we got good measurements. So now it's time for the staining portion of the project. We went ahead and got our dark stain that we wanted to use on this project. And I didn't have any brushes readily available, so you can see here I'm just using my latex glove and the stain. I'm just using my fingers to apply it right there directly on the wood. And this is a great way to do it just to get it done quickly. And now you'll see what it looks like on the top faces of the wood. And then I'm using the same exact technique on the sides of the wood to make sure that everything's uniform. Alright, so now it's time to make some bevel cuts on the center portions of the project. We decided to make bevels on this because it gives a little bit more character, and these are the parts that are going to be right next to the wine bottle, so it gives it a good little look to it. So what you'll see is we measured in about 1 inch from the outside portions of the board, and then now we're using our speed squares to make a small line so we know exactly where we're going to be cutting the wood. Now we do the same thing on the other side. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure from the top. We're going to measure down about 3 inches. And so on both sides we use that tape measure and make a small mark for where 3 inches on that side. And I do the same thing on the other side. Use the tape measure, we're going to hit that 3-inch mark. And then we use our speed square. We're not going to mark all the way across, just on the very outside portion so we know where that 3-inch mark is. And then here we're using our speed square to connect those two dots. So on the top and on the outside, we go ahead and make those marks. It's going to be roughly about 15 degrees. So now the table saw is unplugged because we're working next to the blade. We went ahead and raised the saw blade about half of a sawtooth above the width of the wood. And now this is our miter gauge, and we have it set to 15 degrees, and that's going to help us cut the wood. So there's two ways you can do it. You can use a clamp just like I'm doing here to keep that wood solid, or you can use the push stick like you see in this video right here, and I'm just sliding it all the way across the table saw and using that push stick to hold it secure. And you'll notice also that you don't want to put your finger near the blade, so I'm using my push stick to clear that last piece of wood. And those are the bevels that we cut. So now what we're doing is we're taking that first piece of wood that we just cut, and we're just transferring those 15-degree bevels onto the second piece of wood. And you have to make sure that you do it on the top and the bottom face, because you have to flip the board over when you want to get 15 degrees for both sides of the cuts. So now we're doing the same thing. We use that clamp to hold the wood steady on the first cut, flip it over, and now we're holding the wood with the push stick, and that's what we're doing to cut that 15-degree bevel on the other side. Alright, so now it's time to make some measurements and get a dry fit going. So what we're doing is we're going to make a line at that just above 3.5 inch mark that we had originally on both sides. So we measure that out. I'm going to go ahead and make that mark. And we use our speed squares to strike that line so we know exactly where we're going to be placing the wood. So we do it on one side, flip it around. Now we're doing the same thing on the other side. So now we're taking those pieces of wood where we cut the 15-degree bevels and we're setting them exactly how they were when we did the original dry fit. And now you'll see that the wine bottle does fit when we line up the boards with those lines. And now we're just checking to see if the wine glass still fits, and it looks like it fits on one side. Switch to the other side and it looks exactly the same. It fits just right. So now what we're doing is we're going to be cutting the bars that go across the front of the project. So we just marked a line in the middle of it, and now we're going to run it through the table saw. You can see we're just running it straight up the middle, so they're both equal size. And now we're using that circular saw so we can hit the side walls. And now what you're seeing is we're getting everything together to do one last dry fit. So we're going to mark right there where that 3/4 inch width is for the wood, and that'll give us an idea of where we want to drill the pilot holes for screwing everything together. So we're hitting the first pilot hole right there. It's going to go through, and this is the base of the project. We're using screws because we want to have everything tightened and fastened really securely, because it's going to be holding that weight from the wine bottle. And now there's the third, and here's the fourth pilot hole we're drilling in. And now you can see all 4 pilot holes. Alright, now we're going to be using these countersink drill bits. The reason for that is you'll see that the head of the screw actually has a little conic shape to it, like a cone. So that countersink drill bit is going to allow us to be able to have that cone shape in the wood, and then have the top of the screw head with the Phillips pattern flush with the top of the board. So you'll see we're using that countersink bit, and we're going ahead and hitting all those pilot holes. And now you'll see we have all 4 holes ready to go. So we're using our little table here as a vise, and so what we're doing is we're just putting it in place. We're going to hold it secure, and then we're going to use those holes that we drilled originally as a template, so we can hit the pilot holes in that base of it. And this is going to allow us to be able to screw everything into place without having any guesses about where to put everything. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. This is just a quick way that I was doing it. I didn't want to have any dados in the bottom of the base because I wanted to have it look more rustic with those butt joints. So now what we're doing is we're taking the wood glue and we're going to put it over the face that's going to be touching the base of the project. And we have the screws just sticking out from the base. And now we're just screwing them into the base of the project. And what you'll see is we're going to get everything nice and tight. And once we take it out, you'll see it got those butt joints stuck right there on the base. And we got a little bit of wood glue squeeze out. And so we're just using a paper towel to clean that up just a little bit. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're putting the wood glue over those pilot holes, and then we're going to go ahead and put the last piece of this portion on there. We've got the screws already in the bottom, so now we're just fastening everything to the base of the project, and it's coming along nicely. And then we're going to clean up any of that wood glue that we have there, just like we did before. Quick paper towel. And now you'll see that the wine bottle still does fit. And now we're going to check the wine glasses. So those are the sidewalls we cut. It looks like it still fits. So now when we're attaching these, we're going to draw a line on the actual face of the sidewalls. And the reason we're going to do that is that's going to allow us to hit the pilot holes on those as well. So we're doing the same exact thing we did on the base, except now we're doing the pilot holes right there on the sidewalls. So we did the left one, and now we're going to do the right one. And then you'll see that those pilot holes are getting drilled, and that's going to make it a lot easier for us to get those butt joints attached to the base of the project. We're using that countersink drill bit again on all 4 holes, and that's going to allow us to make sure that the screw is flush with the wood on the outside. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start those screws in there so they're sticking out just barely poking, so we can use those screws as a guide for where we're going to attach them to the base. And then once we get this screw put in there, you're going to see exactly how we do this. So the screw's sticking out just a little bit. We're going to have the tip of those screws pushing into the wood, and that's going to show us exactly where those pilot holes need to be in the base right there. So we're just going to use just a regular drill bit, and we just drill our pilot holes right into the base of the project. And now what you're going to see is those pilot holes are ready for the screws to be attached. So we use the wood glue, put it on that face, and then we attach the sidewalls and just drill the screws in. So now those butt joints will be nice and tight. And we'll do the same exact thing on the other side. We put the wood glue, put the screws in there, fasten everything down, and now we should be nice with those butt joints on the base. So here we are, and we're going to be attaching the sidewalls. So those bars that we're going to be attaching, they're not going to be holding any weight, and so we just decided to use wood glue to fasten those in. So we put the wood glue there, and then to make sure it holds while the wood glue dries, we're using that 18 gauge brad nailer, and we're just going to hit a couple brad nails. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting a stain on the last portions of the project. These are those 15-degree miters that we put on the actual vertical posts for the project. Again, we're using the same exact method we used. I didn't have any brushes on hand, so I just used my latex glove. And I'm just applying the stain with my finger using that latex glove. The nice thing about the latex glove method, it doesn't absorb the stain, so applying the stain is very easy using a latex glove like this, and it's very quick. Again, because of this and other rustic projects that I do, you don't have to worry as much about putting a very meticulous coat of the stain on there. It just goes on very easily and it looks really nice. So now we're just hitting that last face right there, and then we're going to finish up and hit some of the other portions. So now as you can see, we drilled a couple holes because we're going to put that rope in there to be able to carry everything. I used that same method with my glove, and I'm getting stain on the inside of that hole just because I want to make sure that you don't see the light wood. Another thing you can do is use a Q-tip in there to make sure it spreads out evenly, and that's what I did later on. Alright, so now we're going to just attach that carrying strap. So we have our rope and our scissors, and we just cut the rope that we need to the length we want. We tied a knot, and we're going to run it through the inside to the outside, and just make a knot that's large enough so the rope can't slide through. And then we're going to do the same exact thing here, just tie a nice fat knot, that way it won't come through when we're carrying the wine. And now you'll see that it looks nice with that strap. Alright, and here's the finished product. So what you can see is the glasses fit nicely, the bottle fits nicely, and you've got that nice carrying strap. The nice thing about this project, you can use various different sizes of wine glasses, you can use various different sizes of wine bottles. So again, this is a very simple project for the wine lover that you know that's in your life, and have fun creating this project. If you stayed through the entire video, thank you. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel to get notifications about upcoming future episodes. I hope you have a great day, and remember, let's always continue learning interesting things.